Let's get a move on, ladies and gentlemen. Zakir Jacob is ready to join us live because a new chapter has been unlocked in the India-US relationship. Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrapping up his whirlwind trip to the US, and that comes to a closure towards the wee hours of Saturday. 5:40 a.m. on Saturday, India time, is when he'll take off for Egypt. That's the schedule, but this visit of the Prime Minister has been remarkable. You ask why? Well, India and the US have inked several deals which will further bolster the ties between the two nations. From tech to trade, defense to semiconductor, space to artificial intelligence, the two nations have launched several new initiatives. And taking Make in India and Make for the World mantra forward, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be meeting Microsoft Satya Nadella, Apple's Tim Cook, Google's Sundar Pichai, OpenAI's Sam Altman, and NASA's Administrator Bill Nelson and Sunita Williams. So there's a lot that's going to happen. We'll take you through the details in just a bit. But first, let's go across to Zakir Jacob. Zakir Jacob, good early morning. You still got the legs to go around. It's been quite a whirlwind tour for you two. What's on the schedule today?
It's a rainy morning. Good morning from Washington, D.C. It's been raining intermittently ever since we came here a couple of days ago. But today, the forecast is for a rainy day. But lots of sunshine when it comes to the India-US relationship because technology, I think, seems to be the springboard. And there's an acknowledgement from both sides that technology is what will help both sides sort of leapfrog this relationship. So in about half an hour's time, the Prime Minister will be meeting with the who's who of the tech world here in America. There's a roundtable that's been organized in the White House. So Tim Cook of Apple, Sundar Pichai of Google will be there, Sam Altman of OpenAI. The biggest names in tech, Andrew Jassy of Amazon, will all be meeting with the Prime Minister and with President Biden. It's a tech CEO's conclave or roundtable that's been arranged at the White House. And I think, just going to the point that you were trying to make, there were a great number of deals that were signed, the transfer of jet engine technology, the buying of the drones, the consulates being opened and so on. But I think what this visit will be remembered for the most as, 10 years from now is I think this is a watershed because both India and the United States are telling each other, both at the leadership level and to their people, that, look, we are willing to make an investment in each other. I think President Biden yesterday at the state dinner basically said America's future is intertwined with India's future. It's a bit like what happened between US and China 30, 40 years ago, right? In the late 1970s, after Richard Nixon's famous visit in 1972, the United States took a bet on China, saying that this is going to be the factory of the world for the next 30 years. That's how China transformed itself economically from the late 1970s to the early 2010s, just before the Xi Jinping era. It went from under $1 trillion to now a 20 trillion plus economy. Right. The same bet. The message that's coming out of this trip is that same bet they're willing to make on India. Of course, there's far more convergences with India. It's a democracy. There's rule of law. There's shared values. So there's far more convergences between the US and India right now than there has been ever between the US and China. The question is, are both parties willing to unlock that potential? And I think the indication came from both sides, certainly from the leadership, that the future is theirs to take.
Well, that quickly just asking you, is America in the same strong position as it was between the 70s till the 2010s today to be able to enable that with India? Or has that situation changed? And is India cognizant of that? Things are different now in the 2020s.
Well, look, I mean, of course, everybody says, America's best days are behind it. But fact of the matter is, it is the number one economy in the world. I mean, it is the only 30 trillion plus economy in the world and will continue to be so for some time. China has been slowing. I don't think anyone's expecting China to overtake the US as the largest economy anytime in the near future, at least. In terms of military, the United States is way above. I mean, it spends 10 times more than the number 2, 3, and 4 put together. So in terms of even just military technology, it's far ahead of where the rest of the world is. I think for India, the question is this. Yes, India is a great power. It is the 5th largest economy. It will become the 3rd largest economy very soon. But the bet and the calculation that India needs to make and to take is, if you need to leapfrog, you need the help of the United States. Not just the United States, you need the help of the Western world. Are you willing to make that bet? And yes, there will be differences along the way. There will be differences on Russia, Ukraine. There will be differences, again, one of the things that you talked about a moment ago is this whole record of democracy and human rights. Well, America is not a perfect democracy, neither is India, and those differences will be there. But I think the larger messaging that everyone from the leadership certainly is trying to send out is we are willing to make that bet. We're willing to make that investment in each other for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And that's why they believe that when this visit will be seen 10 years from now, they will look at this visit as that marker. Here is where it began.
Right. Zaka, it's going to be a busy day, lots of handshake moments, and it's going to be a lot of fanfare, and you're going to see the who's who. So have a great day, and we're going to keep coming back to you. We're not going to let you rest easy. It's the final day of this whirlwind tour. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Let's go straight across to Adel Nazarian, foreign policy analyst and CEO US Blockchain, back with us, PhD with us, and also Group Captain Dr. R.K. Narang, Senior Fellow at the Manohar Parrikar Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis. Namaste. Thank you very, very much. Let me ask you, Adel, how would you see the deals that have been inked? It's a forbidden technology that's now being transferred to India with the confidence that there will be no proliferation. When we look at the jet engine technology, the drones, and also the setting up by Applied and also by Lam and also by Micron in the semiconductor sector, in the hardware arena. There are a lot of commitments which US had been reluctant in the past, which is given into this time. What's changed?
Thank you. I think it centers honestly around trust at the end of the day. And India is one of the most advanced technological nations in terms of innovation, their STEM output, science, technology, engineering, math. America as well is the epicenter of STEM and technological innovation. And we've seen other nations that have actually used their technological capabilities to spy on and to steal and replicate from the U.S. in a very questionable manner. And throughout the shared history and alliance between America and India, which has only strengthened over the years, they've never once misused or taken advantage of their capabilities to do that. And I think that's where the differentiating factor is, where America openly decided to, as you said, pen those historic deals and to forge an even stronger and more trusting relationship with India going forward.
The space collaboration, Group Captain, are the Indians, is America trying to learn how to do it in the kifayat way? Where India spends millions, we end up spending billions. So how do we save a few more dollars there? How do we get it right the first time? Is that what we're going to teach them as we put our astronauts at the space station?
I think learning will be both sides. We have an advantage of doing it in a frugal way. They have an advantage of having learned the most advanced technologies. So the combination of this will be win-win for both. So far, India was a democracy, US was a democracy. Somehow, our interest did not reach a level that it could lead to next level. So this is an opportunity for us, and I think it's a transformation of India-US relationship after a very, very long time. It was always a promising relationship, but never translated into the real domain. But more important part is India has challenges on its northern and the western front. It's well known. China is not only country which is impacting India, but it is impacting the global order. And I think that is what has brought these two countries together. And also, India is a growing economy. India's requirement of its defense and industrial sector is increasing. And global partners are willing to share with technology with India. Now, India, US being democracy, I think we will certainly had those basic elements. It was just the leadership had to take it to the next level. So space is a very, very important collaboration. But I also see when you look at the Reaper deal. Now, so far we had taken C-17, C-130, Apache, Chinook. Never ever it happened that US agreed to set up a manufacturing facility in India. So at least initial step in manufacturing or at least assembly of Reaper and with Kalyani building aerostructures and also DRDO signing a collaboration with the US partners on certain technologies for the future drone technologies. I think this is much a bigger change And I think it is also an indication of Indian stakeholders coming together to really talk to their counterparts in the US as to what we need. If we are seeking what Kalyani in the private sector wants, what DRDO in the public sector wants in a defense deal, which is of the defense forces. So I think all stakeholders have come under one roof, demanding what is required and negotiating with our partners to get what is required. Now, when we look at the aero engine technology, it's a very niche technology. It's a very important technology. We not only have a LCA Mark II, we have a twin engine deck-based fighter, then we have an advanced medium combat aircraft. So it's a huge order because it's not only the aircraft which will be powered for the first time, but in the lifetime, they will be replaced with the newer engines when they finish a certain life span. So it's a huge initiative where transfer of technology is there, but there are some restrictions when we look at it.
Right.
Still upgradation, export, those issues will have to be worked out. And when we look at the AMCA engine, it will be a more powerful engine. It means this G414 will have to be modified, upgraded to meet the requirement of AMCA. So the critical questions would be, what will be the involvement of Indian scientists in the development? What will be the IPR arrangement between India and US? And how will we look at the further manufacturing and export? If we come to a common ground, I think it will be a great relationship and it will be a long-lasting relationship because these relationships do not end in a short time period.
Yeah, it is for a long time and it's a long period, but it's a big if too. But Adele, is this also an indication to America's allies that start trusting India, start investing in India because this is the market of the future? This is the clear shift away from China?
I truly believe it is a tangible and definitive shift away from China. I think the world suffered and is still licking its wounds from the tremendous supply chain disaster that happened as a result of the COVID pandemic, of China's inability to obviously produce and to keep up the end of their bargain in terms of the promises they had kept. And it made the world realize that it's time to diversify their portfolio, so to speak. And I believe that now that India has it has been working on this for many years. And of course, they've taken now the actual steps towards working on upping their manufacturing capabilities. And obviously you have in Africa, other nations. I think it's going to, frankly, this partnership is going to provide a newfound set of opportunity economically, defense-wise, culturally for the East and the West. So many nations that previously hadn't had a seat at the table, frankly. I like to also just go back to the previous segment that you had, which is wonderful, that not only does India now have a place on the stage, but they have a seat at the table.
Yes.
And that's what's most important.
Yeah, you're either on the table or you're at the table. So it's better to be at the table rather than being on the table. And India is at the table. So I think for a nation of 1.4 billion people, 20% of the world's population, nearly if not more, India's time had come long back, but we had to go back and convince the rest of the world that we deserve a place. That is happening. But the challenge is also delivery, Group Captain. India has to live up to the potential. We have to be able to action all these deals and agreements and hit the ground running. Do you think we're ready to do that?
No, we have the potential. When you look at it, if you look at Indo-US Innovation Bridge, which is basically a platform to accelerate connection between startups, governments, academia, and bring capital. Now, it's a process where problem statements have to be formed by the users. They have to formulate, and there are various mechanisms required. How will the funding come? How will the problem statements be made? Who will carry out the assessment of those problems? How will the IPR be generated out of these innovations will be used? So there are a lot of work required by various stakeholders in India and in the US. The US has an advantage because innovation culture already exists in all the formations of their government. India has to really work hard to make it because when you look at, let's say, IDEX and the corresponding innovation platform of the US platform is already evolved. IDEX has also come of age in the last few years, but still working with another country on these areas will require much more work from our side, some changes in the procedures, some changes, some innovative ways have to be found, how we work with the foreign users, foreign developers, and how when our product comes out,
Right.
how do we commercialize? These are very, very technical parts. When you look at the India's own industry,
correct,
these challenges are faced. So there is a lot of work which needs to be done by the Indians
but I
as
think
well.
one aspect is that we need to have collectively as a nation a consciousness to understand that it's now or never. Yahi samay hai, sahi samay is what the Prime Minister has said. This is the time and this is the right time for India to leapfrog and truly become a developed nation by 2047. Let's hope this visit, the deals that have been signed and the intent that's been shown even from the American administration further drives us into that direction, which is for the greater good of humanity and the planet, and of course, more importantly, democracies to thrive over autocracies. Adele and Group Captain Naren, thank you so much.